Hi, I'm Justin Boyd.
And I'm horny for football.
I'm Tristan Jones.
And we are the Watchers in the Basement. Welcome to the Watchers in the Basement, and welcome to the debut episode of Watchers Football Weekly, a podcast within a podcast, and a podcast that's all about the pigskin. Today, we are here to discuss and basically get you ready for the 2024 NFL season, which starts very soon. We're going to be providing our predictions and our answers to some burning questions. Let's not waste any time. Let's get right to the big question for this episode. And mind you, I'm joined by Frank and Tristan, who are big Kansas City Chiefs fans. The Chiefs are coming off back-to-back Super Bowl championships. So the question is, can the Chiefs do the impossible? Can they do what has not been done and three-peat? Frank, what do you think?
Short answer, yes.
Or will they, I guess, is a better question. Will they? Do you think they will?
I think they will. Is it highly unlikely? Of course it is. Nobody's ever done it in the modern era. But I will give you my reasons why. Part of winning championships, a lot of it's luck. Playing teams at the right time. Health is a big reason why. The Chiefs have been very, very lucky the last 3 to 5 years with just health. I mean, outside of injuries here and there with Mahomes, he was able to play through them during the postseason. But they've been very, very grateful and graceful with their injury reports and guys being ready at the right times. And again, if a game is within one possession in the fourth quarter, there's no quarterback on the planet or in the 9 realms that's better than Pat Mahomes. And I feel like with the defense coming of age last year, being a top 2 defense, now all the pressure is now on Pat and that offense and Andy to put up 35 a game. They won Super Bowl scoring with 23 points. They won the AFC Championship game last year scoring 17. So I'm not saying that they have to. I mean, you need to rely on this defense and not put up points and not be aggressive. You do. But I think Pat now is at a point of his career where he can pick his spots of when to be aggressive, when to take shots, and be very judicious with the football. And not a lot of teams have that luxury. And we found out last year, more so just through out of desperation, that our defense had to come through because our offense just wasn't ready at times. Now in this past draft, picking up Xavier Worthy, literally the fastest football player on the planet. Adding Hollywood Brown, a guy who runs 4.3 as well when healthy. Rashee Rice, his big season he had last year. They are primed to have a great season, and they've now shown you just last year that they don't have to play at home for 3 straight weeks to get to the Super Bowl. They can play in Buffalo, they can play in Baltimore, they can play anywhere at this point, and I think that's going to cause a lot of stir and scare for a lot of those questions that, they did it with home field advantage or they did it being no 1 seed. No, it was 3 seed last year. And now what? What's your excuse now? So I think they will three-peat. It's going to be it's going to be a lot of things that have to come to play. But as long as 15 is healthy and that defense plays top 5 to top 8 football, they have a chance every Sunday.
I'm a second that and kind of piggyback more. I think they will three-peat. I think the only thing really that can get in their way, I mean, besides just bad luck within an individual football game, is health. If they avoid major injury to their key players at key positions, obviously quarterback, obviously the O-line, D-line, and a few of their the secondary and secondary guys and linebackers. If they can avoid major injury between those units, then yeah, I think they're going to three-peat. I think another thing is that the Chiefs have the best roster in the NFL. Now, I don't think they have the most talented roster from top to bottom. They don't have the most Pro Bowlers, the most All Pros. They don't have the most guys that ended up on the top 100 lists, but they're deep at pretty much every position. And I just think they have more answers to the test. And that's really how I judge who's going to win Super Bowl, the NBA championship, the World Series is different, but like
Yeah.
who has the most answers to the test? All right. So we know that in order to win big on a Sunday to Sunday basis or week to week basis, you need to have a top tier quarterback. They have the top tier quarterbacks. So that gives them an advantage even over other great teams, teams at their level or teams like right below their level. Your Baltimore's, your Bengals, Eagles, like whoever you want to name, San Francisco. Like as long as the game is even, there's not a better regular season or playoff quarterback in the history of football than Patrick Mahomes. There's not a better quarterback in the fourth quarter than Patrick Mahomes. There's not a better quarterback at home than Patrick Mahomes. There's not a better quarterback on the road than Patrick Mahomes. He checks every box literally and that you need to win games on a consistent basis. So that's one. Like we throw the Mahomes things out. Offensively, before we even get to like the head coach and like the scheming and the play calling, like you have the best clutch tight end in the history of the football. You have an offensive line that continues to evolve. That's getting deeper, honestly. Like this our left tackle is going to be a rookie, right? And like if he's not ready, or if there, we need to like limit his snaps. Like there's another veteran ready to step in, Wanye Moore. Like they have an answer pretty much to every question you have on the test. The secondary is young, but they're experienced at the same time, right? Even like the guys that are stepping in for like L'Jarius Sneed, stepping into the slot corner. These guys are also like really experienced. They've been in the same scheme for 4 years, some of them. So they have the answer to every test. And my last point to them is like, I don't think they're looking at it as that we're three-peating. Like, I think they're looking at it as we got Baltimore on Thursday, right? Like, what do we need to do to prepare for Baltimore? Mm-hmm. So any team, like if you have a team that has the winning mentality where like we're not defending anything, like it's over. Trey Smith said this the other day. We're not defending anything. Like we won, it's in the past. Now we have this year. So like they have the right mentality, they have the right quarterback, they have the right pieces around them, they have the right coach. There's literally no other reason. I can't think of a single solitary reason outside of like maybe some of the wear and tear of like, the deeper playoff runs. But, a lot of teams that we expect that other people would predict to knock them off have also gone on some of these deep runs. So like, I mean, if it's going to hit the Chiefs, it's going to hit, a lot of their rivals as well. So I think I think they're going to win the Super Bowl this year. Like, I'm not even thinking about it as a three-peat. I think they're going to win the Super Bowl this year, which would be their third straight. But yeah, I can't think of a single logical reason to why they would not win. So I'm taking them.
Yeah, it's a good perspective from you to just take it year by year. But I do think like the historical perspective of the fact that no team has ever done it. And there's been like 8 franchises have won back-to-back titles over the years, and no one's been able to get back to the third. I mean, back in the early 90s or late 80s, you had the Niners who maybe got the closest, losing to the Giants in the NFC Championship game when Montana got knocked out. Yeah. The Cowboys, 5 or 6 years later, they went back to the NFC title game, lost to the 49ers, in a crazy high-scoring game.
But just think about like that one example you just like. So the 49ers and Cowboys example,
right?
That Cowboys team was really good.
Oh yeah, both those.
That 49ers team was one of the most talented teams in the history of football.
Absolutely.
Like unless the Ravens or somebody is like getting their version of Deion Sanders, like like you got to tell me like I don't see like that big of a variance between who they were last year and who they were this year. So. Yeah, I get it. The 49ers, like Joe Montana gets completely knocked out of the game.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think he broke his back in that game.
He broke his back. He missed pretty much the whole season next
season, yeah. I mean, they had Steve Young, so it's not like they had a very capable backup who is a Hall of Famer. And I think was even better than Young or than Montana for a season later on in his career. But I mean, Mahomes, if they keep him healthy, I just don't see who stops them. Like he's only 28. He's been to 4 Super Bowls. He's won 3 of them. It's pretty good. Like that's on that Brady trajectory. Brady went to 10, won 7, and that sounds crazy, but like Patrick Mahomes is like halfway there.
And
under 30.
here's another caveat too that we forgot to add. You have Spags. Like Spags might be the first DC to make the Pro Football Hall of Fame. If he wins again, this would be his 5th Super Bowl as a DC. You know, and he was the DC in 07 against a vaunted New England offense that held him under 20 points. When you had that vaunted pass rush with the Giants, like he's one of the best defensive minds in league history, and I don't think he gets enough credit. And you give people talk about giving Andy Reid 2 weeks. You giving Spags 2 weeks between a championship game and Super Bowl to prepare and get his guys and scheme up something. There's not many guys I'll bet against. He's one of them. I would have been against Spags in a 2-week game plan.
Yeah, I mean they're just a loaded team. I mean, we can go over the roster here in a second, but before we go any further, I just want to shout out to the people in the chat. We appreciate everybody joining us. King B. Johnson's in the chat. Tracy's in the chat. Geeking Out with Millie Mel. She stopped by. Appreciate all y'all joining us. This is the best way to join us. We want to hear your questions. Hey, if you're in the chat right now, let us know who's your favorite team, who you're rooting for this season, who's your favorite player. Drop that in the chat. Or if you're watching us later, drop that in the comments. We'd like to see who everyone's pulling for going into this season. But as far as like the Chiefs, like, I mean, on paper, to me, they're much better than they were last year. Like last year, late in the season, I was like, is this team gonna, they're gonna be like out in the wild card round? And then they got it together. And like you said, Frank, they went on the road. After they beat Miami, they went on the road to Buffalo, which, they could have lost that game, obviously. Went to Baltimore, which seemed like Baltimore was like primed to get over the hump and beat them. They beat them. And then they, went to overtime with San Francisco, and their second time they met San Francisco in the Super Bowl. I just think they're a much better team.
And I think the teams you just named, for the most part, are not better than I don't think Baltimore is better. I think Baltimore is pretty much the same with Derrick Henry, who is not better than he was, who won't be better than he was last year. I think Buffalo is, we'll talk about him, but like, I had to really, make some choices on whether they were actually going to make the playoffs. San Francisco, I just think is due for a regression, period. And I think actually the Chiefs are due for, positive regression. A lot of ways, like fumbles, drops. These are not things that like are consistent on a year-to-year basis. And they had bad fumble luck. They had bad drop luck. They lost some close games that they just simply don't lose. They just didn't execute on a lot of ways, and I think they clean up a lot of those things. Like I said, I don't think the teams that they're facing got significantly better. Like I can't name one AFC team that got significantly better. So until I see that, I have to take the Chiefs over the field.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. I mean, Buffalo maybe was their toughest challenger the last couple of years, and Buffalo, I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure I can name a receiver on that team right now. And I've done some research. So I still think Buffalo might be good, but on paper, it doesn't look great for them. Frank, any other thoughts on the Chiefs before we move on?
No, it's they've given me, I give them the benefit of the doubt now. If the Chiefs start off 1-3, I'm not concerned. If they start they have the hardest schedule the first month of the season. Like they go against Baltimore, then they play against Cincinnati after that. Atlanta, who's supposed to be retooled and good. Again, they if anything from last year that I've learned is that you cannot give this team, you can't doubt them, because like once they're in the playoffs, that team's a veteran team. They're young, but they've been through the ringer as far as just playoff wars the last 5 seasons, and like even the young players like Joshua Williams is 24. He's been this is going to be his third possible Super Bowl run. Like at 24, McDuffie's 24. Like these guys are so young, but they have so much playoff pedigree. And I have no doubts. If Mahomes goes down, that's really the only way I'm going to doubt them this year. If Mahomes goes down and gets hurt. Other than that, I think week to week that this should be the favorite every week this season.
my last thought, quick thought, is Mystique. Like, full disclosure, like I'm a Warriors fan, so like I have some experience with like a team that just won back to back, and like you
Right.
come into the next season, and for a lot of teams that you play, you've already won. And like you like 40% of the game, you've already won. You just have to execute. I'm an Astros fan. Like we talk about the Astros being inevitable. Like there's a mystique that goes around a team that consistently wins. Like you don't even have to be marginally, significantly talented than the other team. Like you come in with a mystique, and that kind of gets you almost halfway, and the rest is just execution. Um, some teams will beat themselves just because they're trying to beat the mystique more than they're trying to beat the team. So not just the back-to-back champions, back-to-back Super Bowl champions, but like they won Super Bowl before that, and the worst they've ever been is losing in the AFC Championship game with Mahomes. So like there's a mystique that comes with that that's hard to like get over. Like you have to like significantly outplay them and then do it in the biggest moments, in order to have that confidence that you can actually finish the job against them. And I don't see anybody. We saw Baltimore. Lamar Jackson was spooked. He was spooked. What I'm saying? Like he got completely out of his game because he knew what was on the other sideline. So until I see a team, same thing with Josh Allen, until I see a team that can really stare at them toe to toe consistently, like I just don't see it.
You saw the Super Bowl on NFL Films. I saw it on the receiver documentary on Netflix. I saw it on one of the documentaries this year. On that last drive to tie the game, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, those guys' heads were down, and Kurt, like they're hoping that they're just home to a field goal. They were scared that he might take the lead, and then in overtime, when he got that 4th and 2, and they're driving, all the players' offensive heads were down. They were defeated.
They were predicting what was going to happen. They were like, "Oh, can't let Pat run. Can't let him run. He about to take over this." Like they were predicting what's going to happen. That's Mystique. Yeah. That's Mystique.
Speaking of Mystique, in the chat, Melly Mel says, "Not gonna lie, when Tristan said Mystique, I was like X-Men." No, Mel, we're not talking about superheroes today, but trust me, we're not giving up the superhero life. We're still all about it. We're going to be different kind of superheroes. Patrick Mahomes is a superhero. He just doesn't wear a cape. But no, we're going to be talking about plenty of superhero stuff coming up. But this football thing is a new thing for us. We hopefully all y'all will join us every week, and as we kind of go through the season, because this is stuff we'd watch anyway. It's not like I'm going to week 5. I was going to watch week 5 of the NFL season anyway. It's not like I have to schedule anything. So we hope you enjoy it and join us along the way. Yeah, the point about the 49ers is a great point because that team arguably is the most talented team in the league. I know at least last year. Like today, getting ready for this podcast, I rewatched like a 20-minute highlight package of the Super Bowl. And that team kind of has it all, right? And even that team couldn't beat the Chiefs. I mean, like, you can't, like, there's only so much you can do. Like with even Mahomes running those kind of on the run RPOs where it's like he could take off and run, or he could, stop on a dime and throw to somebody. It's hard to see someone beating that guy. I mean, like if he gets hurt, yeah. I mean, obviously they haven't won every single game over the last 5 years, but in those big moments, like watching that game back, I remember how I felt when I watched it in February. And it's just like, it's kind of inevitable. It's kind of like a Jordan or a Kobe thing, or even like Steph Curry or something. Like it's Thanos. Back to superheroes, it's kind of inevitable. Like you just don't see how someone's going to win. So
imagine us in the same room in February watching that, like in that last drive. It was so anticlimactic.
Yeah.
We were just like, oh, well, this is over. And that's, yeah. Man, he refuses to let us down. So,
yeah. Back to the chat. Thanks, M Moves, for joining us for a little bit. Hopefully you have a safe flight. We appreciate you always checking in on the podcast, and be careful.
Thanks for your support, M Moves.
Check in.
So the Chiefs. So okay, we all three of us think the Chiefs are going to win 3 in a row. So I think we all safely can say we think they're going to win their division because they've won the AFC West 8 straight years, which I think is actually crazy. Like when you look back, the last time a team not named the Kansas City Chiefs won the AFC West, it was 2015 with the Peyton Manning led Broncos. Like that's a crazy stat. So let's go through the rest of the West. I go to Frank first. Who do you see coming in second in this division?
I like the Chargers. In second, I see 10-7, so a distant second from KC. I think the KC wins 13 games this year. A lot of people are not too high on the Chargers' weapons. I know they let Keenan Allen go. They let Mike Williams go. It could be one of those things where it's addition by subtraction from the standpoint of identity, right? When Brandon Staley was there the last few years, they threw the ball a lot. They mismanaged a lot of games down the stretch. I mean, this was a good team. They just found new ways to lose games down. The last 5 minutes of the game, crunch time. I think Jim Harbaugh brings an identity to that team. I think he goes back to the running game. I mean, they signed Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins from Baltimore. So that what that tells me is they're gonna go back to smash mouth football and take a little bit off of Herbert's plate. I still think Herbert will throw for about 4,000 yards, but I think there'll be more balance to it. And they drafted Lab McConkey, receiver from Georgia, slot, shifty top receiver guy who can move the chains. I think Joshua Palmer, who was like their third receiver the last few years, will be the slate number one receiver. But I think they'll do just enough in the passing game to keep the offense balanced with the running game. And everywhere Jim Harbaugh has gone, he's turned into a winner. Whether it's San Diego State, whether it was Stanford, whether it was San Fran, and it was the same formula, man. Like just run the football, play action off of that, keep potent offenses off the field, and with great defenses. And I think I don't think you'll see the full turnaround this year, but I think those games that they foolishly lost in the clutch the last few years won't be an issue this year. So I see them going 10-7.
Okay.
Yeah, I also had the Chargers as the runner-up in the AFC West for a lot of the same reasons. I still think that there's going to be a larger balance towards passing the ball. I just think that situationally, because that's where they lost. It was throwing on certain downs. Obviously the fourth down, conversions or lack thereof played a big role in a lot of their losses. But it's like you can throw a lot. You just have to understand when to not throw a lot. It's those, 3rd and 4s that you may drop back and try a 25-yard pass, that has a low percentage that, you may be able to run some RPOs or some quick pass game, things. I think that's where Harbaugh is really going to make his mark, is like situationally knowing when to run, because they're still going to pass the ball. Like Justin Herbert is golden arm. I've been calling him that in the group chat since he was a rookie. He's golden arm. Like he's a guy you pay money to watch throw incomplete passes. You know what I'm saying? Like he's that beautiful a passer, but wrong play calls, bad, just situational football, not knowing when not to go for those fourth downs has doomed them literally over the course of 3 years. So I think Harbaugh will be a lot smarter in those situations. And I think Harbaugh alone is worth about 3 more wins than they had last year. So 10-7, I can rock with that.
I'm in the same boat with y'all. I have the Chargers also as the runner-up in this division. I think the Harbaugh thing is the main point for me. He doesn't waste time. There's no gap year. He, like Frank said, San Diego State, Stanford, San Francisco, Michigan. He turns it around fast, and I see the same thing happening because I think this division is obviously the Chiefs are the tops, of course, but the rest of the division is pretty weak in my estimation. So just having Harbaugh and his mentality and the system he brings in seems like it's going to work. And I agree, Herbert is a pretty solid, young quarterback, and I think he'll just only, get better under Harbaugh. Frank, who do you have after the Chargers in the West?
Reluctantly, I have Denver. I'm not. Our brother Jeremy is really. He told me back in January that Bo Nix will be a first round pick. I was like, I don't know. I don't. I saw a lot of open passing lanes. I saw a lot of RPOs. I didn't see many mini drop back and like throwing tight windows throws at Oregon. But he's a guy who's been in college for 5 years. He has a lot of starts under his belt. And as hesitant as I am with Bo Nix, research shows when a quarterback has more than 45, 50 starts in college, the more equipped to handle the day-to-day grind of being an NFL pro. And Sean Payton is he's proven to be a great offensive coach. So he may be able to get something out of him that we haven't seen yet, as far as like the jump of his skill set going to the pro level and Bo Nix. And from reports that I've read throughout training camp, he's handled the offense very well. They're not so much spoon feeding him. They actually give him a lot of like responsibilities, as far as like pre-snap recognition, things of that nature. He's thoroughly outplayed Jarrett Stidham and Wilson that came from the Jets. I don't know how much of a good thing that is. I guess it is if you're pushing for a rookie to start. But I'm kind of waiting to see on Bo Nix. I don't know. I got to see him doing the pro level for me to really get on board about him being a long-term franchise quarterback. But from what I read, he's doing what he needs to do in camp. I'm a big Javonte Williams fan. I know he tore his ACL last year, missed a big part of 2023 season. He's a hard runner, a guy who can catch the ball in the backfield. They lost a lot of pieces on defense. I think that Russell Wilson trade, give him all those picks, and then give him that big contract, kind of send him back a little bit financially with the cap. So if you're the Broncos and you're a Broncos fan, you want the next thing to hit because you don't have much wiggle room as far as salary cap flexibility goes. They have an up and coming corner that needs to be paid as well. So I'm picking Denver to finish third, more so because of Sean Payton and what he's done in his career. And the Raiders I have last. So
Tristan, who you got third?
I have Denver. Please don't take this as me saying I believe in Bo Nix because I do not believe in Bo Nix. I've watched Bo Nix since he was a freshman.
You don't believe? Come on, man.
I do not believe in Bo Nix. I've watched Bo Nix for so long that I'm thinking about like how old was my son when I first started watching Bo Nix? Like pretty sure he was still peeing on himself at this point.
That's how you measure age, is it?
Bo Nix.
Yeah, Bo Nix, yeah.
Fucking tree trunk years. I do. With that said, I do think Bo Nix will be a good stabilizer. Yeah. I completely agree with everything Frank said about like the college starts. Like all of the data supports that he has so I think Bo Nix is a higher floor than most people give him credit for, but that ceiling is like if he jumps, he's gonna hit his head. Like he's only gonna be. I think he'll be solid for a few years until you just kind of have to come to that realization. Like, hey, we have to actually draft a franchise quarterback. So he's somewhere between career journeyman and franchise quarterback, even like low end franchise quarterback. I think he's like right below that, but I think he'll be solid enough to where they win some games that they probably shouldn't, but then lose some games that they probably shouldn't as well. So I have them third, and Raiders I don't even think are worth, outside of Devontae Adams and Max Crosby, I don't think are worth like a legitimate conversation.
Tristan, let me ask you this. Let's say, and this is completely scenario. We don't know what Nix is going to do. If Nix's floor is Colt McCoy and his ceiling is Kirk Cousins, is that a wide enough variance to justify the 12th pick of the draft?
Yes, because the 12th pick in the draft is, I don't think if the 12th pick in the draft gets you 3 years of solid quarterback play before you trade him out, or whatever, like, I think that's good enough. I don't think that sets your franchise back more than a year. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you can make that up. So yeah, I and especially as bad as they've been in the quarterback position since Peyton Manning, the corpse of Peyton Manning retire. Like I think that justifies it. Yeah.
Okay. I agree. By the way, I agree.
Yeah.
Well, I've got Denver also, almost by default, because I really think Las Vegas is going to be really bad. But for Denver, it is addition by subtraction. The fact that Russell Wilson's someone else's problem. He's now in Pittsburgh for now. We'll talk about them in a little bit. Moving on, let's talk about Las Vegas. We have them obviously in the bottom of the division, but Frank, do you like the starting quarterback as Gardner Minshew? And how many teams has he played on? How long has he been in the league? I feel like he's not that old, and he's been on like 5 teams, 4 teams.
Yeah, I think they showed us. They showed some. I was watching. Oh man, was it Nick? I can't remember what show it was. They did they showed like a silhouette of 2 quarterbacks, and they showed like the passing touchdowns, interceptions, passing yardage, passing yards per attempt, and it was a silhouette. I don't know if Tristan saw this.
It was first things first. Coach Mangini.
Okay, yeah. So it was first things first, and they showed the silhouette. And I'm like, okay, those aren't bad numbers. One's going to miss you, Justin. The second face they showed was Trevor Lawrence. He just signed a $240 million contract extension, $55 million a year. They have exactly the identical numbers. I think Minshew has thrown 5 less picks, but same numbers of touchdowns, pretty much virtually the same numbers of yards per attempt, same numbers of yards, passing yards. Now, and that goes to show you the quarterback market these days and how scared teams are of like being in like that no man's land of like looking for a quarterback that a lot of teams are right now. Do I think Gardner Minshew's a star? No. Do I think he's competent? Yeah, he's very much competent. Here's the problem though. That team is devoid of talent. Yeah. They're just lacking, they don't have enough talent. And it's going to look really bad on Minshew. And it's not going to be his fault. Their O-line's a wreck. Their defensive line is a wreck. Their secondary is a wreck. They have some young talent at tight end. They drafted Brock Bowers from Georgia. He looks like to be the next coming of the great tight end, the second coming of Sam Laporta, and a lot of these other tight ends that are coming in the last couple of years. He's a bright spot, but they don't have enough talent, and I don't know. And they've missed on so many first-round picks the last 4 or 5 years. It doesn't matter who the GM is. When you miss on first-round picks, that first-round pick, really first, second-round picks are supposed to be instant starters. And when you're continuously missing on first, second-round picks, you are leaving holes every year for the next 2 or 3 years after that draft. If you miss on the 2021 draft, your first 2 picks, that means the next 3 or 4 years, you're behind the 8 ball. And now when you miss 5 years of like not getting those first and second round picks, you just avoid the talent, and then it costs you to overpay come free agency. And that's the big reason why they pay all that money for Devontae Adams. Did it make sense at the time? You can make the case, I guess, but again, was Devontae Adams the difference of them making a deep playoff run with the roster they had in place? No, but that's the price you pay when you constantly miss on draft picks. So Coach Antonio if they have a plan put in place and give Antonio Pierce time to like accumulate talent and try to hit on these draft picks, then they might have a shot in 2027, 2028. But right now, for the foreseeable future, they don't have a long-term solution at quarterback. Minshew is a stopgap right now. And Aiden McConnell, a guy who they drafted last year, he looked horribly bad in preseason this year. So I don't know how you fix this problem unless you get a GM and a front office that's put in place by Mark Davis to like actually put a plan in place to like draft competent talent to fit a scheme. I don't know what their identity is. They have no identity. So I don't know.
Yeah. Everybody loves the backup until they become a starter. It's like it's a tale as old as time. I need to know what that O-line is going to look like because it's been porous. That's not going to do Minshew any favors. I think just the lack of consistent really good quarterback play is going to piss Devontae Adams off, which is going to have a trickle effect on how everyone sees Minshew. And then that defense is just it's Max Crosby and what else? They'll have a few games where they look like a competent team. They'll make some noise here and there, but like ultimately, this is a 5-win, 6-win team at best.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair estimation. From the AFC West to the AFC East, which to me, I think prediction wise was the toughest one for me to predict. Frank, who you got winning the AFC East this year?
I still have Buffalo. I trust them the most, just based off like Josh Allen and what he's able to do. I know a lot of people picking New York, but for one, I got to see Aaron Rodgers stay healthy. You saw when he went down, they were a train wreck the rest of the way. Josh Allen, I think, and I know we've used this term a couple of times today, but again, addition by subtraction. I think Stephon Diggs lost a step. I don't think he was the same guy he was last few years. And when they went more to a run-oriented style offense, with James Cook and more play action, they went on like a 5-game win streak to close out the season, to win the division. So I like Buffalo. I like Keon Coleman, the draft pick receiver from Florida State. They pick up Curtis Samuel. Dr. Kincaid is a star at tight end. He's a future star. I think him and Sam Laporta are going to be the next crop of tight ends after Kittle and Kelsey and those guys. I like what they're doing defensively. They're doing a hard reset. A lot of their draft picks was focused on defense. They lost Jordan Poyer, the safety, lost both their safeties actually. But Milano will be back healthy at linebacker. He broke his leg last year. Until somebody shows me that they can beat Buffalo and get him out of the AFC East throne. They won it 4 straight years in a row. I'm going to go Buffalo again.
Yeah, this will be our first disagreement. I'm going Miami.
Okay.
I don't think Buffalo, outside of Josh Allen, will have a consistent enough offense against really good teams to at least win the division. I do have Buffalo as my runner-up, and I still have them making the playoffs, but I'm taking Miami. Not because I believe in Miami at his great level, but I'd also think that Miami just has a easier schedule this year. I believe in Miami's offensive firepower around Tua. My issues with Tua are, pretty much after maybe the division might be wrapped up. Like once we get closer to the end of December, that's when my belief in Tua drops all the way to the bottom. They just have too much speed, way too much speed. I think they made enough defensive improvements again to win a division that I think is just really going to be really weak. I don't have the Jets even coming close to winning the division. I just think they're too easy to game plan, and I don't think the last time we saw Aaron Rodgers play a full season, he was not that good. He looked washed, right? Or at least he looked like he was on the verge of wash. Like last year should have been his super wash year, right? And he tore his Achilles. So I have really no reason to believe in them outside of, Garrett Wilson is obviously really good. Breece Hall is, coming off an injury, but he's also really good. They made some marginal improvement, like Tyron Smith. Again, Tyron Smith was on the verge of being washed. So I guess the calculus for the Jets is, if we can get enough 70%, 70% here, 70% here, it'll add up to a really good team. And I just don't think that's how it works. So I have Miami winning that division.
Okay.
And I got Buffalo as my runner-up. Josh Allen by himself is good for 8 wins, just by himself. I think I didn't like what I saw from Keon Coleman in the preseason. I think he struggled to get separation a lot in the games that I watched. Outside of that, I have no fucking clue. who their receiving core is. I know they got Dalton
You don't like
Kincaid.
Shakur, the number 2 receiver? You don't like him at all?
What did you say about my mom? My mom? Like, what did you say? I don't know who these people are. So yeah, like I think the Buffalo's path to a division championship is going to come on the back of Josh Allen making a significant improvement as a pocket passer.
Mhm.
Like he's going to have to like go up a level, and like really since 2020, he's been average at best, strictly as a passer, not just counting like what he does in the run game. So I need to see that first, and I have no reason to just dive in and believe that.
Yeah, Josh Allen's the reason why I have them winning the division again. Like Frank said, they've won it the last 4 years. I just think he's good enough. Like Tristan said, maybe 8 wins by himself. I think they're pretty good on defense, so I think they'll find a way. They're very good at running the ball, so I feel like that team's the best in the division still. This division was tough for me because I'm not really sure about the Jets. I have the Jets second, just because they could be second or they could be one of the worst teams in the league. You know what I mean? Like if Aaron Rodgers gets hurt again, who knows? You know, like they could be right back to where they were last year. But they also have a lot of talent too. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, it's hard to, they won 7 games last year, and the kid in Denver, what's his name? Last name Wilson, not Russell, but the other Wilson. Zach Wilson. I mean, he was their quarterback for most of those games. So, you think with Aaron Rodgers, a healthy Aaron Rodgers, even at 40 years old, would, get him to 9 or 10 wins, maybe.
Here's
I
the
have
thing
my.
with that, though. If I may chime in briefly,
Sure, go ahead.
The knock on Aaron Rodgers, really for the last decade, is that he's been so worried about being hyper efficient that has lowered his ceiling as a dynamic game-winning quarterback. Right? This is what has happened to them in the playoffs. Like, yeah, he's had years where he ended off with 4 or 5 interceptions, but like at the cost of making big time throws that really set you apart. Like, what's really separating Aaron Rodgers from Kirk Cousins, right? It's a lot of these intermediary like dynamic throws that he can make, but like, okay, he makes a lot of these 12 to 15 yard plays when a 25-yard pass is needed, especially in a big moment.
Yeah.
Right. Because he's so afraid of like getting away from that efficiency, throwing picks. And it's like, no, I need a great quarterback. It has to be high risk, high reward, but like you also have to be efficient at the same time. And he hasn't shown that in so long that like there's no reason to believe that at 40 years old, coming off an Achilles with not a really big dynamic receiving core, what happens when, a team stacks the box against Breece Hall, but also has a really good cornerback who can at least bother, Garrett Wilson on the outside? Then what? Where's this dynamic tight end? Where's this dynamic offensive line that's going to protect him? Where's this ability to like scramble on the move? But we really think Aaron Rodgers is getting you, 40 yards on the ground at 40 coming off an Achilles? I don't see it. I think they're much closer to the worst team in the league, or one of the worst teams in the AFC than they are to like being a dynamic playoff team.
Speaking of the worst team, one of the worst teams in the league, maybe the worst team, I think easily the worst team in the division. Let's talk about the Patriots. Frank, where do you have them?
They're battling the Raiders for worst team in football.
Okay.
I don't know. It's going to be tough. I mean, Drake might be a guy in the future, but it's so hard to judge quarterbacks when you don't have weapons. They did a position by position grade and ranking earlier this summer. The Pats ranked 31st in running back groups, 32nd in receiver personnel, 32nd in tight end personnel, 27th in O-line personnel. How the fuck are you going to be able to develop a young quarterback behind that lack of talent? Yeah. And I don't know what Drake May is. He has a lot of talent. He has a golden arm. He appears to make throws, but you gotta be a goddamn fool to put him behind that O line and those lack thereof weapons. It's ridiculous. I feel bad for Jacoby Brissett. And Jacoby Brissett is a competent quarterback as far as like backups go. That head coach is going to have a long road ahead of him, and I hope Bob Kraft has a 3 to 5 year plan for this coach to be able to like refill the kitchen cupboard, because Belichick fucked that team over in just horrible drafting. Like they have no talent, like none. Like the one defensive star they had, in Matthew Judon, they traded him to Atlanta. Like they have no talent. The cupboard is bare. So if I'm New England, man, I would start Jacoby Brissett. You have Drake May and Bubba Wrap until 2025. Like I wouldn't put him out there, because like you never do anything but destroy his confidence. And I'm from the old school. Like unless you have talent around you to start a QB year one, i.e. Joe Burrow in Cincinnati a few years ago, got a team like set up like that. Keep your quarterback on the bench until you have talent around him, until you have a competent O-line as well. So, no, I have New England last in the division and possibly last in the league.
Yeah.
Let's have some fun here. Here's my prediction. Jacoby Brissett will be in the top 5 in the NFL in passer rating, and in the bottom 5 in yards per attempt. Like he's going like this is going to be a screen pass your ass
Down,
to death, dink and dunk to 9 to 12 points a game.
Yeah.
I don't see any path to this team. How many games do you think they're going to score over 24 points? Like I don't see more than 3.
Yeah,
you know,
I was gonna say 3.
3. The over/under should start at 3. So I don't have much commentary on this team because, like Frank so eloquently, posited, like they don't have talent.
Yeah.
Right. Well, if your only talent is your rookie quarterback, then no. Yeah, bubble wrap to 2026 if need be. I know like, we're past that point in 2024. Like he's gonna play next year, come hell or high water. But like, man, whatever you have to sell off to get some draft picks, you have to do it. And Jacoby Brissett is going to have to be the crash dummy for that. But yeah, this is going to be one of the worst teams that we've seen in the last decade.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Frank, any final thoughts on the AFC East? I don't think you talked about Miami much. Anything you want to say about Miami or the Jets or anything?
Yeah, I'm kind of with Tristan, man. I know we disagreed on one at the top of the AFC East, but I have Miami too. I just think they have too much offensive talent, especially from September to November when the weather's cool and sunny. I mean, I don't think anybody in the 9 realms can like defend all those weapons at one time, especially when Tua's playing turnover-free football. Now, December, January, that's a whole different conversation unless they get home field throughout the playoffs, which I thought they do. But I have them second. I have New York third. Kind of, to pick it back, I mean, not to repeat what Tristan said. Aaron Rodgers, he won a couple MVPs. That last MVP, I don't know. I think that was more so of like, he's Aaron Rodgers, let's give it to him. He played a lot of low risk football that season. And I think he's so concerned of like not creating turnovers and not like pushing the ball down the field. And you can't win that way in today's football. You have to be able to push the ball down the field. And I love Breece Hall. I think Breece Hall has offensive player of the year type talent, especially with his skill set. He had 900 yards last year. But again, the O-line, like you have 2 tackles who are perennial injury prone players who can't stay on the field. And you're relying on them, and you have a quarterback who will be 41 playing behind that line. I just don't know. It's too many ifs, and you're wishing, and you're hoping and wishing upon a star that guys can play somewhat mediocre enough to give Aaron Rodgers a chance to get the ball to Garrett Wilson and Alan Lazard and Tyler Conklin. I'm sorry, that offense doesn't scare me enough The passing game doesn't scare me enough. Defensive to be good. They'll be good defensively, but for Aaron Rodgers to survive a full 17 games behind that O-line, I just have my doubts.
And that's before we ask the question, is the head coach good?
I forgot about Saleh.
Is he good? Like, can you definitively tell me that he's good? I don't think you can.
He was a good coordinator with the 49ers.
Excellent coordinator.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So moving on, let's talk about the AFC North. And instead of hitting every team, let's just kind of give how do we think the North is going to shake out? Tristan, what do you think about the North?
All right. So I'm going with back-to-back winner in the Ravens.
Yep.
I did think about the Bengals a little bit. I don't have Cleveland making the playoffs. I think quarterback play is going to doom them. I think Deshaun is done as a good quarterback. I think it's right there in front of our eyes. There's a lot of people just refuse to see it. Defense is going to be good, but like the quarterback play is going to damn them. But yeah, I have Baltimore taking the division. I have Cincinnati as a runner-up. I think both will make the playoffs. I think fully healthy Joe Burrow is the second best quarterback in the NFL. Mm-hmm. I think Lamar is the second most dynamic quarterback in the NFL, and the difference between those is what happens in the playoffs. Is when something's taken away and you have to rely on, being a precision passer. That's where Lamar crumbles. But regular season wise, like he's one of the best quarterbacks in the history of sports, especially against non-AFC teams. He's like 21-2, I believe. So Baltimore, Cincinnati, I have Cleveland, and Pittsburgh at taking fourth place. I think Russell Wilson is a step above Bo Nix. Like as we say, like I think Russell Wilson's ceiling is not Colt McCoy, Kirk Cousins, and his floor is a little bit higher than Colt McCoy. So that's the AFC North for me.
I have the same order. Frank, what about you?
I have almost the same order. I flipped Cincinnati and Baltimore only because Baltimore lost a lot on the offensive line this past season, this offseason, and they lost some pieces on defense on the D line. I know they re-signed Mbikwe, their defensive end. They lost Clowney, who had a good year with them last year. Marlon Humphrey has battled injuries the last couple of years. If he's healthy, he's one of the best corners in football, but he's been hurt a lot the last couple of years. Roquan Smith is a great defensive middle linebacker. I'm worried about the O-line. You lost 3 guys on O-line last year, which led the #1 league in rushing last year as a team. So that's going to be something that I'm concerned about. And with the weapons, again, offensively on the outside, love Zay Flowers. Who's the number 2? Who is it? Who is it? I mean, Odell's gone. Mark Andrews is getting long in the tooth. He missed some time last year as well. I have questions about the receivers on the outside and the line. So I have the Bengals 1 in that division. Again, I know Joe Burrow's coming off with that wrist injury, but like Tristan said, when he's healthy, when he's going, to me he's the second best quarterback in the business. And I'm very confident they'll get the Jamar Chase contracts sorted out. This probably be the last run of this collection of offensive talent with Higgins and Chase being there. I think Higgins will be gone next year. I think them knowing that, I think we may see some offensive fireworks this year with that team. They've always had questionable O-line play. Even the year they went to Super Bowl, they had bad O-line play. They got a tackle in the first round this year to try to shore that up. So I have the Bengals 1. I have the Ravens 2. I have Cleveland 3. I'm off Deshaun Watson. I think he's done as a premier starting quarterback. I think the Browns know it. I think the Browns know that he's done. I think that's when it's all said and done. It's probably the worst contract for history when it's all said and done. I think signing I think signing Jameis Winston as a plug and play backup, it was smart, and I think the rumblings will be heard loud. I don't feel good about their quarterback situation. Love the defense. I love their pieces. Nick Chubb's gonna be out the first month of the season. Who's to say that he'll be right when he gets back as well? This will be his third knee injury, last 4 or 5 years. So just a lot of questions with Cleveland, man. And Pittsburgh is Pittsburgh. I mean, bad O-line, question mark at quarterback. I have them last.
Does Russell Wilson finish the year?
I don't think so. I think Russ is one of those guys where what made Russ so good for a 10-year stretch was his mobility to make off-script plays, especially on the run. He's not that guy anymore. And when Denver tried to force him to be a pocket quarterback, he struggled. He was hesitant. He looked uncomfortable. He's not as quick as he used to be. And I think Tomlin is going to see that the first month of the season. And I won't be surprised by Game 5 if Justin Fields is in there. Now with Fields, he's the premier athlete. Like we saw him have 145-yard rushing days and 200-yard rushing days, but can't throw the ball into a passing window to save his life. So they're gonna have a lot of problems. I think in 2025 they're gonna be probably drafting a quarterback next year, but I don't think Russell Wilson finishes the season as a quarterback one.
Yeah, I don't think either one of them will be starting in 2025 week 1. The issue with Justin Fields is like, can you get rid of the ball? Like, can you bam, 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 get rid of it? Like, on script, off script, Justin Fields is really good, but like you can't build an offense around that. Especially with not a ton of like dynamic, like them not getting Ayuk. They would have gotten Ayuk. I think that would have raised them to like 3rd in this division with like a chance to like maybe upset like the rest. You can kind of let Tomlin work his magic to like maybe get a 2nd in the division, but like not getting that, like pretty much shut the door. Like they have what they have, and that is a 7-win team, 8-win team at best. If they get to 500, Mike Tomlin should get a lifetime contract because that team is just not good enough.
I agree.
And Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season, so that might be put to the test this year. We will.
First time for everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Mikey T.
we will see. From the AFC North to the AFC South, that brings us to the Texans division. So we're all in Houston. So let's talk about the hometown team a little bit. Last year, they had a rookie head coach, rookie quarterback, both passed their rookie seasons with flying colors. Texans made it to the divisional round. They've never made it past the divisional round. Last year, they lost to the Ravens. Do y'all think the Texans can take the next step? And Frank, I'll let you start off. How do you see the division going? And I mean, do you have the Texans winning it?
I have Houston winning it. I think C.J. Stroud and DeMeco Ryans had changed the makeshift, the culture of that city, of that team. I was the one that said C.J. Stroud was the best quarterback coming out last year. I had him over Bryce Young. I thought he should have been the number 1 quarterback. I was shocked, surprised, appalled that Carolina passed up on C.J. Stroud, especially when he did Georgia last year in the BCS playoff game. With that being said, I do not like the Stephon Diggs signing. I think they had enough talent with Nico Harris. Is it Harris?
Collins.
Nico
Collins.
Yeah. Nico Collins.
Tank Dell.
And they had Michi from John Michi. They had a lot of talent at receiver.
Yeah.
Stephon Diggs has been a diva the last few years. He diva'd his way out of Minnesota. He diva'd his way out of Buffalo. And I don't know. I'm not saying he's a bad character guy, but some receivers, when their talent is dissipating, they still have the ego of that talent that dissipated. And I don't know. I think Diggs is going to be one of those guys. Now, if he plays a part and like plays that contributor role and doesn't think he's the number 1 guy, then cool. But I don't. He hasn't showed that in his career that he's a guy that can play take the back seat to another guy. I think Nico Collins is a star right in the waiting. I think he's going to be a 100 catch, 1,400 yard, 12, 13 touchdown type of guy, especially if healthy. I love Tank Dell as well. Coming off the broken leg, I think he'll be the perfect slot guy. Dalton, the tight end that they got from the Cowboys, was a great pickup for them. They have a lot of talent in the passing game. Running the ball, I'm not sure how much Mixon has left in the tank. I would have drafted a guy if I was Houston, but again, their CJ Stroud is so good. He raises the level of play, and to be that young, to be able to do that at that age, it just shows nothing but great things for the future. I love the Danielle Hunter signing from Minnesota to go along with the defensive rookie of the year and Will Anderson. They got talent all over the place. I think Houston's doing a good job of like stockpiling talent while CJ is still on his rookie contract. So I have them one on top of the AFC South. Two, I have Jacksonville. Not because I think Trevor Lawrence is that much better than everybody. I think the other two quarterbacks in the division are just that much improving, and I'm picking Trevor Lawrence by default. Brian Thomas Jr., the receiver from LSU, he's going there to replace Calvin Ridley. They have Gabe Davis from Buffalo as well. So they got two big, strong, fast receivers to go along with it. They brought back Evan at tight end as well. They started off 8-3 last year. Jacksonville did, and then I think Lawrence got hurt. They lost 5 straight, and Houston came in and took the division. If Lawrence can stay healthy and just play turnover mistake-free football, just don't put the ball in harm's way. Play within yourself. I think the Prince that was promised moniker that Nick gave Trevor Lawrence the last couple of years, I think it's a little bit far-fetched, overrated of him. But if Trevor Lawrence just plays within himself, that team will be in it for a playoff spot. Third, I have the Colts with Anthony Richardson. I love his makeup. I love his personality. I think he's a guy that you're gonna fall in love with. He needs to play more football. He hasn't played enough football yet, especially at quarterback under center to like really give me confidence that the offense is gonna take the next level. He played 4 games last year for the shoulder injury, and I need him to learn how to slide and not take hits like that. You're not playing against Vanderbilt. You're not playing against Ole Miss. You're playing against grown men with mortgages at the NFL level. So I need you to slide and like avoid contact. So that I got them third, and then fourth. I have no faith in Will Levis. I have no faith in that offense in Tennessee. If they do anything outside of 6 wins, I'll be surprised.
Yeah, I have the same order. What about you, Tristan?
Same order. I don't want Anthony Richardson taking hits versus LSU and Ole Miss either. Like, this doesn't seem like a smart idea. I have the Texans winning. My one issue with the Texans is outside of Stingley, the rest of those corners and secondary have the potential to get lit up against like really good defenses, really good quarterbacks. Outside of that, there's a lot of talent there. Offensively, there's a lot of talent there. Not so sure about the run game, but like you really need, 4 yards of carry. You don't need a dynamic running back. You need somebody who can give you, pick up first here and there, catch the ball out of the backfield, and just help protect CJ. Outside of that, I think they'll continue to take that next step offensively. Obviously I have Jacksonville second because somebody has to be second. Trevor Lawrence has not consistently shown, number one pick, potentially generational quarterback. I think that part is done. From now, it's just like, can he establish an identity as just a big game quarterback, on a consistent quarterback on a week-to-week basis? Like, can you just be good every week? Like, instead of being good, great, mediocre, good, mediocre, great. Like, I need like consistent good, and then we can start worrying about the great.
What should his ceiling be, Tristan, for all the no one picked, the pedigree that he came will come out of Clemson? what should his ceiling be, and what is his floor?
He should be where Joe Burrow is. If we, you're talking about a guy who was a star quarterback as a freshman, right? Like, so he has the experience. He has so much experience in big games. He has experience, just reps, nothing but reps. And I don't know if it's, at first we could say it was a talent around him. At a certain point, like that kind of dies down. Like, okay, even if it's a talent around you, we should still see a consistent level of production, even if it's not like Mahomes level or Lamar Jackson level. We should see a baseline. Like, okay, Trevor Lawrence, I know regardless of what's going on around you, I can expect this. I can expect a good 220, yards on 60% completion percentage, 95 QBR. Like, I can expect that, right? And if you dip below that, okay, we allow 1 or 2 bad games, but I can expect that. And it's just been too much of a variance for Trevor Lawrence. Like, we can't. It's like him and Justin Herbert are kind of like polar, same sides of the different sides of the same coin. Where it's like, okay, I know that you can be great. I've seen you be great. Can I get at least really good on a week-to-week basis? And that's just what's been missing from him. Same thing with Anthony Richardson. Missing that first year, I think, set him back a lot because he was already behind developmentally on a lot of the intangible things that you need to be like to be a great quarterback. So this is essentially another rookie year for him. So Indianapolis is just going to have to buckle up and ride with that. There's no Gardner Minshew to kind of step in and, take, these games here and there, if Anthony Richardson goes down. So they're just going to have to like protect him. So we talk about him, not sliding, but like they can also help him by not running him like he's Cam Newton in 2010. Like, this is a different league. Like, let's replace a lot of those design runs with some quick hits, some screen passes. Protect your quarterback, essentially. Don't treat him like he's Trey Lance. So, and then the Titans, like, again, I believe more in Will Levis than I think Frank does, but I also don't believe in him at all. So, like, I don't understand how that works. I think Will Levis.
What? Explain that part.
I think Will Levis, from what I've seen, he'll have a good game like once every 3 or 4 games. Like, if he can up that to like good game, mediocre, good, like, and good game for him is also a lower bar. Like, I don't believe in him to be like a franchise quarterback.
Yeah.
I do believe that Will Levis can win you a game out of like 8. Once every 8 games, Will Levis can be the difference in winning that game. So, again, low ass bar, but that sounds like a last place team perennially, honestly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. New coach, also Brian Callahan, first season. So probably not going to be a good one for him in Tennessee. So that wraps up the AFC. Let's get our AFC playoff teams. Frank, who are your 7 playoff teams?
My hot number 1 seed pick is the Green Bay Packers. I have
No. AFC. Let's do your AFC playoff team.
Oh, I'm sorry. AFC pick.
Yeah.
Yes. 1 seed Kansas City, 2 seed Houston, 3 seed I have Cincinnati, 4 seed Buffalo. My 3 wildcard teams are the Chargers, the Jaguars, and the Dolphins.
Okay.
I have Kansas City, Baltimore, Houston, Miami, and then I have Cincinnati, Buffalo, and I struggle with Chargers and Browns. I'm gonna go with Chargers for that last wild card spot.
Okay. I've got Kansas City, Houston, Baltimore, Buffalo. Those are the division winners. My wild cards, the Chargers, Jacksonville, and Cincinnati. So we shall see. We all have very similar teams. One thing about the NFL, every year there's like between like 5 and 7 new playoff teams every year. So I think by my count, I think I have, with the AFC and NFC, I think I have 3 or 4 new ones. So I don't feel great about it, but right now I don't see how those teams don't make the playoffs. And speaking of the NFC, let's get right to it. the NFC West. Frank, what do you think about the West? The Niners are back-to-back division winners. Will they win it again?
I think they will. But I think this is the beginning of the end of this team, of this incarnation of this team. You got a lot of contracts coming up. You got a lot of maneuver with the salary cap. And Purdy's contract is coming. And he's probably going to get $60 million. If Lawrence got 55, if Love got 55, and Purdy has 2 NFC Championship appearances, a Super Bowl appearance, why would he get 60 under this new regime? So that leads me to believe that somebody is going to be gone, whether it's Debo as a salary cap casualty, maybe one of those linebackers. I don't know, but like they're going to have to like move some stuff around. So I don't know if they're going to be able to keep this team too much longer together. But for this season, I had them as the 1 seed. I think Purdy's going to get better. I mean, there's been a lot of discussion about Purdy, whether or not he's a game manager, whether or not he's good as advertised. I would say this: if he was healthy 2 years ago, they would have beat Philadelphia. I think it would have been San Fran back-to-backs representing NFC. When I watched their offense, and they showed numbers of how Garoppolo's numbers are similar to Purdy's numbers. This is going to be Purdy's second year full starting, third year in the league. He's already showed this much growth. And if you compare him to Garoppolo, who have 4 years on him, I'm going to have to go with Purdy and his development. And plus, if you're going to keep talent around him like the way you're doing, and you have Shanahan as his coach, I love the West Coast offense. I love McCaffrey. I mean, they have so many weapons for Purdy to grow into. And I'm not saying Purdy's Tom Brady. I'm not saying that he's Russell Wilson, but if you look at Tom Brady and Russell Wilson's first 2-3 years in the league as a pro, they were bus drivers. They were game managers, right? And they brought him along slowly. And by year 3, year 4, they were able to man the offense, carry the offense, and take on more. And I think we'll see more of the offensive weight on Purdy's shoulders going into this season. The second I have the Rams. Now they lost a generational talent, one of the best defensive players in football, and Aaron Donald. But if Matthew Stafford is healthy, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, Kyron Williams, they have a more competent offense to put points on the board. I think the defense will still be really good. They picked up Jerry Verse, D in Florida State, to man that front four. I think they'll be second in a division. Third, I have Seattle. They have a bus driver quarterback as well, and Geno Smith. I mean, he's not Geno Smith, Gardner Minshew, Jacoby Brissett. They're just great value quarterbacks. I mean, they're good enough to get you through a season, maybe knock on a playoff door if everything falls into place. But at the end of the day, they're not playmakers on a game-to-game basis. I love DK Metcalf. I think Jackson Smith-Ajigba, receiver from Ohio State, his second year in the league. I think he's primed to have a big season this year. But defensively, I have questions. And last is Arizona. I mean, I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be a star. I think he has star potential. I still have questions about Kyler Murray. I don't know if he's a guy that takes the game serious. I mean, there's been reports that he's been at the facilities early, leaving late. Like he's been studying a lot more, they say. But that's a team again. Their running game is in question. The O-line's in question. They were 30th ranked in defense last year. I don't see them making a big jump, so I have them in last place.
Man, same order, but I will be honest. Up until like an hour before we started this pod, I bitched out. I had the Rams winning the division. I think
because of Jimmy Garoppolo. Okay, go ahead.
I think a regression is coming for San Francisco. I think a slight regression is coming for Mr. Purdy. I just they've had more injury luck than I think. Like for a team that plays that physical, like they've had more injury luck than I think this sounds bad to say, but should have. And I think we start seeing some breakdown from McCaffrey. Again, McCaffrey is the best running back in the league by far. But he's been relatively healthy since he got to San Francisco. And a quick note on McCaffrey. I think Purdy is a better quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo. But if you look at the numbers since when McCaffrey first got to San Francisco, if you look at Garoppolo's numbers, they're eerily identical to Purdy's numbers with McCaffrey. So essentially, like, they're the same quarterback with Christian McCaffrey. I do think Purdy has a higher ceiling. I think he can make more plays. I am concerned that Purdy has decided that he wants to be more Brady, 06 Brady, like before Moss. Like, he wants to like take more chances.
Right.
I don't know if he's that type of quarterback. I need to see that on a consistent basis. So I do think like his interception rate will go up. Maybe his touchdown rate goes up as well. His big play ability goes up as well, but I also think he's not good enough for like that risk to go up as well. Like, so like it's a catch-22. Like, he may be more explosive, but he also might lose you a game or two more than what he normally does. I think it'll look like that Cleveland game that he tried to give away at least 3-4 times. They ended up losing.
That was also a bad weather game, which he showed a couple times last year. He had trouble in cold weather, rainy conditions. So
I mean, like, we have to remember why he was the last pick in the draft. Like, it wasn't like they just were picking on him. Like, he's small, mediocre arm, average arm at best. Not a lot of off script, outside the pocket plays. Like, this is who he was. He won a lot of games at Iowa State being that, but he needs a team that can like really take care of a lot of his flaws, when he's not hyper efficient. So I reluctantly have San Francisco winning the division. I have, the Rams at second. I wanted to pick them first. I think I'm enjoying this renaissance of Matt Stafford as an elite quarterback. I didn't think he was on a Hall of Fame trajectory in Detroit, despite the numbers. I didn't even think he was on a Hall of Fame trajectory after the Super Bowl. I think what I've seen from him in the last few years is a quarterback who can elevate the talent around him on a consistent basis with good coaching. So that's what we're seeing from him. I have Seattle. It's hard for me to believe on a week, like Coop said, on a week-to-week basis that Geno Smith can be a dynamic quarterback. I think, again, once every 4 games, you'll see a dynamic quarterback who can like elevate, play, and win a game essentially almost by himself, but not enough. And then Arizona, again, young team, bad defense. I'm seeing some people like pick them to make the playoffs, and I don't see it. I need to see, again, consistently. What can you do on a consistent basis when your strengths are taken away? So we take away Kyler's running. We take away Marvin Harrison's big play ability. What else do you have to lean on? And I don't think they have enough answers to those questions.
Yeah, I think the Cardinals might be fun for like fantasy football purposes with Kyler and Marvin Harrison Jr. And then a lot of games where they're probably down by a couple scores, trying to catch up late. Those late 3:30 afternoon games that they just live. They live in that window, that TV window.
Backdoor covers.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I have the same order as you and Frank. I did think a lot about the Rams also, because that's a pretty talented team. Last year they only had Cooper Kupp for like half the season or maybe less, and he was pretty banged up when he did actually play. And Sean McVay obviously is pretty successful coach in a short time period. They did lose Aaron Donald though, which I think is worth noting. Arguably one of the greatest defensive players of all time in the middle of that defense. So that'll be a question of how do you replace him, or how do you find a way to get by without that guy in the middle of your defense. But they have a lot of weapons. I think San Francisco. I think your points about Brock Purdy are well stated. I think it's kind of a catch-22. It's like when you have a system quarterback who's a good system quarterback, people go, oh, well, he's a system quarterback. Like people want to like look down on that, but it's like I think Brock Purdy is a good system quarterback in that system where he's surrounded by a lot of talent. Like you said, if he tries to be like Tom Brady from like 06, 07 or whatever, I don't think it's going to work out too well. You're right. I think you're going to see a lot more turnovers, a lot more, a lot of picks. So I think it will be an interesting division though, because I think Seattle might be better than we expect. So it could be a 3-team race, but you can say that for a couple of these divisions.
Yeah.
I know Frank's had a little bit of difficulty, so hopefully he'll be rejoining us. But let's go from the west to the east. And those of you in the chat, that the East means the Cowboys division. The Cowboys won the NFC East last year. Tristan, how do you see the East shaking out?
Again, there will not be a back-to-back NFC East winner. I play with a lot of different scenarios here. I have Philly winning the East, kind of reluctantly. I have Dallas in second place, kind of reluctantly. I kind of want to take Washington.
Wow.
I kind of want to take Washington.
The Jaden Daniels hype is real, right?
I think that he's going to be, as long as he is healthy, I think Jaden Daniels is going to be good. Like, I think Jaden Daniels has potential to be really good. I think he's giving me like Robert Griffin Jr. Vibes that rookie year. They just got to keep him upright. But I have Philly taking the division just because of the stability. I don't think Saquon is going to go in there and be Christian McCaffrey. I don't think he's anywhere close to Christian McCaffrey. But they do have stability on the outside. They drafted. We'll see how well they drafted as far as their secondary, but it should automatically be better than what it was last year. Last year was one of the worst, literally in the league. But I have them there with Dallas. Dallas will win a lot of home games. I don't know how many road games I can count on Dallas to win. I just don't think. I think a regression is coming from them. They were top 5 in offense and defense. I think there's going to be a regression on both sides. And then that's before, again, is the coach. How good is the coach? I think Mike McCarthy is a good coach, but how good is he, right? Like on what scale of good is he to like make up for a lot of their flaws and a lot of the lack of improvements they made on both sides of the ball. I just don't see it. CD coming in, camp a little bit late after signing his deal, I think is going to set them back a couple weeks. There's going to be regression on his team, right? Either from Dak, either from, who else is their receiving core after CD? Like, who else can we trust on that receiving core after CD Lamb? So yeah, I have Dallas reluctantly second place in that division. And I almost had three NFC East teams making the playoffs, but ultimately I pulled back on that. So I have Washington at third for right now, and I have the Giants at a distant fourth.
So you don't believe in Daniel Jones?
I think he gives the Jones name like a bad name. So no, I do not believe in them. Their receiving core don't even believe in Daniel Jones. So like, why should I? And then I don't believe in Daboll as a coach. I barely believed in him as a coordinator. So yeah, NFC East, Eagles,
Yeah.
Cowboys, Commanders, and then ... Giants.
Yeah. I have the exact same order. Frank, what do you think about the NFC East?
Is this thing on? Is this on?
It's working.
So
yeah.
I'm gonna put my nuts on the table and say that Washington's gonna be the second team in the division,
Hey.
and I have the Cowboys missing the playoffs.
Okay,
And
there we go.
I'm gonna tell you why.
Shake the fucking table.
I'm shaking the goddamn table on this one, bro. I think Jalen Daniels and the Commanders are gonna have a Houston Texan-like run this season.
Oh wow.
I think Jalen Daniels is one of those quarterbacking talents, unlike RG3. And RG3 was great in 2011. He was wonderful. I think Jalen Daniels is a way better passer, especially in the pocket, than what RG3 was. I think the weapons that they have with McLaurin. I know they traded Dotson away. and Brian Robinson Jr. at running back. I think in the NFC East it's not a powerful division. Like it's very mediocre at best, right? Like I think over the last 9 seasons, it's been a different team every year to win the division. I still have the Eagles up top. I just have faith in Jalen Hurts to get it going. I still like the O line. I know they lost Jason Kelsey. The O line is still gonna be formidable. I think Saquon. I think the Eagles play calling is gonna trust the running game a little bit more with Saquon. I think with DeAndre Swift last year, he had a good year last year, but there were times last year where they got away from DeAndre Swift and put way too much on Jalen Hurts. I think Barkley's name and recognition alone is going to provide a little bit more balance in the running game and not putting too much on Jalen Hurts to be the main culprit running the ball. So I have the Eagles winning the division. Now I'm not saying the Eagles don't have holes. I still have questions about them defensively. I know they signed Devin. Can't remember his last name from the Bucks to be a middle linebacker. But I have Washington number 2. I think they're with Dan Quinn being there. I think he'll man the defense and get them going, and put the right pieces in order for them to make a run. I just think Dallas has too many holes, man. I don't like you said, and I think Tristan created a great recipe. When the game plan is out there and you take CD away, who's going to be the other guy? Is it Jalen Tolbert? Like he was a rookie last year who did nothing last year. They don't have Dalton Schultz is gone at tight end. I like Jake Ferguson. I think he's a really good tight end. But I don't know they have enough pass catchers to keep secondaries honest. And they brought back Zeke to play running back. He's supposed to start. If this is 2016, me is excited about that, right? I'm stoked about that. They signed Dalvin Cook to practice squad. Again, 2020 me is excited about that pick 4 years ago. Like I don't know who's running the ball. How are they gonna be able to keep defensive honest of not just loading up on CD? I don't know. I mean, I was watching a fantasy show early yesterday, and they were talking about Rico Dowdle. The second string running back might be a fan sleeper. What the fuck is a Rico Dowdle? For me to be like, oh, this is gonna say the Cowboys running game. Like what are we doing? What are we doing?
That name up, son. You made that name up.
I probably apparently he was there last year. He's supposed to be a fan sleeper this year.
What happened to the coach's son? I forgot.
He's still there.
Oh. Yeah. Dude's 5'5", all 5'5" of him. He's still there. Yeah. I mean, what is he going to do in the backfield? I don't know. I mean, this is not Kansas State. He's not playing against. He's playing against grown man mortgages. Like I said, like I have no faith in the running game. They had a chance to sign Mr.
Derrick Henry.
Yeah. Old buddy in Baltimore. He lives in Dallas, and they didn't even give him a contract. So. I don't have Dallas making the playoffs because of that. And I think defensively they lost some guys on defense. I have them third in the division, and then the Giants are the Giants. And let me take back what I said. The Giants are going to challenge the Raiders and the Patriots as one of the worst teams of football this year.
Don't forget about the Panthers, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. That's going to be a real bad team also. Okay, so from the NFC East to the NFC North, this might be I think this is a better division than the East. That's not saying a whole lot, but Tristan, how do you see the North shaking out?
It's the best division in football, in my opinion. I'm not confident in any of my picks. I have the NFC North getting 3 teams in the playoffs.
Okay.
But before we get there, out of respect, I'm going to take Detroit to win the division. I could see a lot of regression. They got a lot of close game luck last year, and that tends to vary from year to year. So I could see them losing more close games than they won last year. Runner up as of today, I have Chicago.
Okay.
I think Caleb Williams goes for at least 3,800 yards on a low end. On a high end, maybe 44. Okay. I think he could have one of those years. I think he could have a Caitlin Clark type of year. Shameless plug for my white daughter. And I have Green Bay as of today in third place. All of this can change. I really might change this 3 or 4 times before we get to week 5. I believe in all 3 of those teams just in general. Yeah, I have all 3 of those making the playoffs, so it really doesn't matter. Minnesota, I think if JJ McCarthy had not have gotten hurt, I think he's a step above Bo Nix. Again, I need to see more before I can say he's a franchise quarterback, but I think he's better than Bo Nix. So like whatever that's worth to you, like I think he's better than Bo Nix, but worse than like 2 steps below Jaden Daniels as a rookie quarterback. So I have Minnesota 4th, but I think Minnesota can compete even with Sam Darnold. I think they can compete with a lot of teams. They'll lose a lot of close games. I'll say that. Minnesota will lose a lot of close games. But yeah, 1 through 3 can, man, I don't fucking know. Jordan Love might just take off on everybody, you know what I'm saying, and drop a 5,000 yard season, and just fuck it and say I'm going for MVP. So that's what I have as of September 3rd.
Sounds good. Frank, what do you have as of September 3rd?
I mean, it's a tough division to call. I mean, I like Tristan said, I think it's the best division of football. I was on wax in our group chats last year. I had the Packers as my sneaky team to make the playoffs last year. Based on and it wasn't based on much. It was based on 3 games I saw Jordan Love in preseason. I love how he looked. I loved how he did pre-snap recognition. I love his accuracy, his anticipation. With that being said, I think the Packers are going to make a lot of noise. I think they're going to be a big threat to the Chiefs' three-peat coming out of the NFC. I have them 1 in the NFC North. I just love what Love is doing. I mean, I love his progressions. I love the Joshua Jacobs signing. I mean, getting a physical running back in there to get those tough yards inside. They have the best young, cheap receiving core money can buy with Christian Watson, Jalen Reed, Luke Musgrave at tight end. So many athletes out there. Romeo Dobbs. They have so much talent. And what makes them so good is that Romeo Dobbs and Jalen Reed are route technicians. They create separation like that. And it's the Packers are in a great place to have those guys under contract in their rookie years for another couple of years. Yeah. Second, I have the Lions. I think the Lions, like Tristan said, I think they had a lot of close games last year. They won a lot of close games. I mean, I think 10-7 is not a bad year based on like some of the luck they had last year. But again, best line of football. Jared Goff has stabilized the quarterback position there. Amon-Ra St. Brown, one of the best receivers in the business, especially yak yardage. Jameson Williams, a sleeper, coming out of Alabama. He missed most of the season last year due to suspension. Now you have him for a full season to go along with, I think, the next best tight end in football in by 2025. They're loaded, man. I think Sam Laporta is going to be a star. I think he had 90 catches last year as a rookie, and I think you have less catches only because of the addition of Jameson Williams being there for a full season, and Amon-Ra and Jahmyr Gibbs, man. I mean, the guy he reminds me of a faster, more explosive Alvin Kamara. So I have them 2. Like Tristan, I think 3 teams will come out of this division. I like the Bears a lot. I love Ryan Pace, Chiefs disciple, coming from the Chiefs front office. Being able to he knew for the last 3 months who his quarterback was going to be, and what did he do? He goes and gets Keenan Allen. He drafts Romeo Dubé in the first round. He extends. I can't remember the tight end's name, but he extends the tight end. He gives Moore a contract extension. Embarrassment of riches at receiver and tight end. So I think Caleb Now, I don't know much about the O-line. If they can keep him upright, like Tristan said, I think he's a 4,000-yard passer, 25 touchdowns, easy, if healthy. And Minnesota, I got them last. I don't think they're bad. I just think that there's so much unknown at quarterback. Now with Sam Darnold, he will have talent. With Justin Jefferson being there, T.J. Hawkinson's coming off an injury. Not sure when he's coming back. He might come back 5 games into the season. He'll have weapons to play with. I just don't know how careful or not careful he will be with the football. That's my only question with Sam Darnold. But yeah, I have Packers, Lions, Bears, Vikings in that order.
Okay. I've got the Lions winning it again, although I think Green Bay is going to be right there with them. I think the Bears are going to be fun to watch for the first time, I think, in my life. Like, they have a quarterback with Caleb Williams. They're going to score points. I like Rome Odunze. I mean, all their receivers, honestly, they're going to be fun to watch. Going to score some points. I don't think they're quite going to be a playoff team just yet, but who knows? They may be right there at the end of the season. And I have Minnesota last. Also, I think y'all said it well with the quarterback situation being so up in the air. Even if McCarthy was healthy, it's like, what is he going to be? You know, Michigan was a loaded team that was a run dominant team, you know, defense run dominant team. It's interesting to see how his career is going to play out in the NFL. But I think the first season, the Vikings will finish in last in the NFC North. So from the North, let's go to the South, which if the North is one of the best divisions, the South is certainly the worst division. Tristan, how do you see the South going?
Every year, I forget what teams are in the NFC South. Like at least once a year. I'm taking Tampa Bay to win the division.
Okay.
I've grown to like Baker Mayfield, which, and if you would have told me this when he was in Cleveland, you know, I cursed his name in Cleveland, but I've grown to like Baker just as a stabilizing quarterback who plays better than I think he gets credit for in big games, especially in the playoffs. Not great, but like he makes some plays. Like he'll make some plays to like get you in position to win. I just don't think he's good enough to like all the way elevate a team to win. So I have Tampa Bay. Runner up, I have Atlanta. One of those quarterbacks has to be good enough. If they can commit to getting the ball to like their playmakers, which seems like an easy thing, but like they completely forgot Kyle Pitts existed for the majority of last year. Brian Robinson, am I fucking his name up?
Bijan Robinson.
He's Bijan. Yeah, Bijan has a potential to be offensive player of the year. He has that potential. He's that good. If they can create a good enough offense to where defenses can't load up on him, I think they could be good. Kirk Cousins, again, it's a guy coming off an Achilles who already struggles to stay upright in the pocket. You know, he takes a lot of hits. He takes a lot of like video game hits. So we may be seeing Michael Penix a little bit earlier than we should. In that case, like, I don't know, where I have them might fluctuate. They may be third, but like that the division is so porous. I have Saints at third. I could see the Saints being last. Like with any type of improvement from Bryce Young, I could see the Saints being last. It may be Spencer Rattler time by like week 8, you know, and that could be its own circus. So this is a shitty division, man. This is a shitty division almost from top to bottom. The Saints, I don't even know how they feel the team. Like, again, the salary cap is like all of their salary cap crimes over the last few years have come back. Those chickens have come back to roost, and them bitches are loud. Like they are probably like maybe a step or two above New England as far as being devoid of like dynamic talent. And then the Panthers, can they protect their quarterback? Let's just start there. Can they protect Bryce Young will Bryce Young have more than 2 seconds in the pocket to throw the ball? If you can guarantee me that, I can guarantee you at least 5 wins, right? I think Bryce Young will improve. I don't think he's anywhere near as bad as he was last year. I think it was a mixture of him not being as good as he should have been, plus the rest, everything around him completely failing him at every level. So for that reason, I think they're still going to be last because I have no reason to believe in their O-line. But Bryce Young should be incrementally better than he was last year, just by sheer. That man, he's talented, and by all accounts, like really smart, big game quarterback we've seen in college. He just needs at least a basic level of talent around him to get 4 or 5 wins. At least start building towards somewhere. So, Bucks, Falcons. Hopefully, we don't see Michael Penix at all this year, but we could because Kirk could break down. I could see that happening. New Orleans and then Carolina.
Frank, what do you think?
Man, I was hoping to catch you off guard, man. I thought you and Tristan would just pick the Falcons in first round, second divisional playoff appearance. But yeah, I know better, I guess. But
well, no, we'll wait till we get to me. Go ahead.
Never mind. I have Tampa winning the division. There's been seasons where Kirk Cousins has been the favorite to come out of the division and go a deep playoff run, and Kirk Cousins, he'll throw in that playoff dud, or he'll throw in that an array of 4 or 5 bad throws in a row and misreads. I don't know how well he does as the favorite. Now, does he have everything working in his favor? Yeah, ultra athletic tight end Kyle Pitts, who the fantasy community has been waiting to flourish over the last 3 years. I mean, Drake London, who's a young talented receiver. Bijan Robinson, who was a fantasy monster last year, outside of Coach Arthur taking them out in goal line situations and not giving the ball enough. But they had the talent. But again, I don't know if Kurt's is going to be able to live up to that. And again, he's 40. He's coming off an Achilles injury. Is he going to be able to stay upright for a full season? I don't know. These are questions that need to be answered. Now, I don't feel comfortable enough making them the favorite to win the division. What I saw from Baker last year, especially with not a lot of talent, especially with a bad running game last year, they had one of the worst running games in football, and they smashed the Eagles in playoffs by 20. I didn't think I would be a Baker believer, but now given the contract they gave him, that 3-year, $115 million contract, bringing back Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, they got Jaden McMillan from Washington, one of the triumphant receivers that came out of Washington, played with Penix. I have Tampa winning the division. I have Atlanta second, only because I don't trust Kirk Cousins. Again, the Spencer Rattler experience, I think, will come before week 8. I think Derek Carr is who he is. Derek Carr is a marginal starter. He might be a glorified backup at this point of his career, and that's okay. I come to terms with it. A lot of the NFL community has come to terms with it. For some reason, the Saints have not. I don't know why, but I have them.
They don't have any other options. They have nothing.
They don't. They don't. I would have cut ties with Derek Carr. I don't. You can't justify paying him the money that you're paying him to get meager performances from week to week. That's my only thing with Derek Carr. And I love Bryce Young. I think he has all the talent in the world as far as throwing talent. But again, like Tristan said, the O-line scares me. I don't know if they'll be able to keep him upright. They drafted Xavier Leggett from South Carolina. He's a Debo type, not as explosive, but very physical. A guy that they can run a lot of intermediate routes to. I don't know if they have enough weapons outside of that. And I think if they win 5 games, but Bryce Young looks marginally better and he improves within himself, then it's a win. And you build on that going to 2025 draft. But yeah, that's my ranking. Tampa, Atlanta, New Orleans, and Carolina.
So this is probably my hottest take. I have the Falcons winning the division, but don't get excited because I think they're going to be an 8-9 team. I think we're going to have an 8-9 division winner, and I think the Panthers and the Saints are going to be relegated to the SEC. That's, I mean, honestly, you know,
SEC West division at that.
Yeah. They're going to have a tough time in that division.
They're not the West though.
Yeah,
Look at Missouri.
No, I really like. I do like Michael Penix Jr. I don't understand giving Kirk Cousins that contract, then drafting a quarterback with the 8th pick overall, 7th pick, whatever it was. Like, just draft the guy if you like the quarterback, especially for Penix Jr., who's an older quarterback. He's already 24, 25. Like, why wouldn't you just throw him out there and see what's going to happen? The Falcons have a lot of weapons, and I feel like now they have possibly 2 quarterbacks who can get people the ball. So that's why I'm taking them. The Bucks have won the division the past 3 years. I just don't enjoy watching that team play. I'm not a Baker Mayfield guy, and I don't know that a ton of people are, but yeah, I just don't like watching that team. The Saints are a team I enjoy even less. That's just even back to the end of Drew Brees, it's a tough watch. The Saints are, and then the Panthers are just a brutal team. You know, last year the Texans, probably their worst loss of the season was to the Panthers in week 7 or 8? They lost, I think it was like 13-12, some just brutal game. At that point, if you'd have told me the Texans were going to, win the division and then reach second round of playoffs, I would have told you you're crazy. But football, the NFL is just you never know what's going to happen. That's part of the reason why we love it. So that's the South. That wraps up the divisions. Let's talk about our playoff teams. Tristan, who do you have? Who are your 7 for the NFC?
All right, I said this team would regress a little bit, but I still think that if I think they're going to win that division, I think they're going to be number 1. So I have Detroit,
Okay,
the number 1 seed. I have San Francisco 2, Philly 3, Tampa 4. Then I have Chicago, Dallas. Man, I'll regret being a bitch about this. Fuck. I have Dallas and then Green Bay, and I'm going to go Green Bay then Dallas. I'll make that switch: Green Bay and then Dallas.
Okay, Frank, your 7 playoff teams from the NFC.
I got the Packers as the 1 seed. I got San Fran, the Eagles, Tampa. Those are my division winners, and then I have the Lions as a wild card, Washington, and the Rams.
I'm going with the Niners as number 1 seed, Eagles, Lions, Falcons. Then my 3 wild cards are the Packers, the Rams, and the Cowboys, because the Cowboys have been a very good regular season team. Now, when they get to the playoffs, it's different, but I think they will get to the playoffs somehow. I don't think they're going to go very far. So that does it for our playoff teams. Now it's time for Super Bowl predictions. Tristan, who do you have in the Super Bowl and who do you have winning?
I'm going to go Chiefs Lions.
Okay.
I'm going to go Chiefs Lions. I think San Fran's run is on the verge of being over. And I think this should be the first time. I don't believe in Jalen Hurts enough as a passer.
Yep.
To get through just the full playoff slate. I refuse to believe in Baker Mayfield outside of like the first round, the wild card round.
Yeah. My
wild card is Chicago. I'll say it. Chicago and Green Bay are my 2 wild cards.
Okay. Let's fuck it up.
I think, again, good enough. I think Chicago's defense will be really good, if not great. With those weapons, if health permits, I think they can make a run to the Super Bowl. And I think the same thing about the Packers, although I believe less in their defense. But I think Jordan Love could just fucking take off and just have like a MVP, type season. So, yeah, I fear the North. Fear the North. I think the NFC champion is coming out of the North.
Frank, who do you have in the Super Bowl and who do you have winning it?
I have the Chiefs to come out of there, out of the AFC. I have the Packers as my Super Bowl representative for the NFC, and I have the Chiefs winning 31-24.
with a score too. Nice.
Mm.
So when I was a kid, I always hated when like Sports Illustrated did their preview or ESPN the magazine, and they'd always like they just run back the Super Bowl from the previous year, and I was always like, "Man, that's so like lame." But that's what I'm doing here today because I think San Francisco gets back. And just follow me for a second because no team's ever won 3 in a row. I think the Chiefs are going to win 3 in a row. We haven't had a back-to-back Super Bowl rematch since literally 31 years ago when the Cowboys played the Bills back-to-back years. So it hasn't been done in a long time. I think this is all about history. So I think we're going to see San Fran and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl again. Chiefs are going to win it again. And yeah, I don't know if San Francisco is ever going to get over the hump, but I do think they're going to get back there somehow.
I think my biggest hot take, I don't even know if this is a hot take. I think that when the Chiefs win, it's going to look like San Fran and the Chargers in '94 or San Fran versus the Broncos. I think like they're going to put up like 40 in the Super Bowl. I think Pat goes for 350 to 400 plus yards. I think it's going to be one of those Super Bowls. He that's the one thing that's missing is like that guard level. He's had like guard level halves in the Super Bowl.
Right.
I thought the Eagles game was a guard level performance outside of like they didn't have the ball enough for the numbers to reflect that, but they scored on damn near every possession.
Yeah.
Like against the Eagles. So
yeah, the second half, the scoring was just except for one in the second half.
Except for one. So I think he has like a guard level. They have a guard level offensive performance in his Super Bowl.
I'm gonna go this far. If the Niners if they go back to a third Super Bowl and they lose to the same team 3 times in a row, I guarantee you that team will not be the same going to next season. You're gonna see trades. You're gonna see guys getting moved. You're gonna see draft guys get moved for draft picks. Like that's gonna. I kind of compare it to the 2013, 2014 Seahawks. I know they didn't go back to back. They went back to back Super Bowls, but that when they lost that game to the Pats on that Russell Wilson pick in the end zone, that team was never the same. They eroded moving forward. There was infighting. That team was just they were a shell themselves mentally. And I think if the Niners go to another Super Bowl and lose to the same team 3 times in 5 years, I think you may see the same thing with that Niners team. You may see a Brock Purdy-led team in 2025 with a lot of changes on both sides of the ball.
I don't think John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan will be back. One of them, not both.
I agree.
I mean, it's tough though. Like if they make the Super Bowl again, they get fired after. I mean, that's like not being. That's like it's like back in the '90s. Like no one could beat Jordan in the finals. Like I don't think you're firing Pat Riley for the Knicks aren't firing him because they couldn't get over the hump with. I mean, he left on his own accord.
I'll say he left.
He found his own. He found his own kingdom to take over with the Heat, but.
A lot of coaches got fired after they lost to the Bulls, though. Lenny Wilkins gone.
Yeah, I mean, Lenny Wilkins. I don't think he had he didn't have the 49ers kind of roster to go up against.
Also true.
Yeah, so I don't know. We'll see. It's not like I feel like great about it, but I just feel like that San Francisco team has so much talent. I just feel like the NFC is so much weaker than the AFC. The AFC has all the good quarterbacks, basically. Like there's 7 or 8, maybe 7 of the top 10 or maybe more are in the AFC. So in the NFC, it's kind of slim pickings, but obviously you do have Philadelphia that's up there also, but that's also a team that who knows with their coaching situation and their quarterback not necessarily getting along from what we've kind of read and heard about. That could be a team that could implode. With Dallas, you never know. Maybe this could be the Cowboys year out of nowhere. They didn't do a whole lot in free agency, which is rare. Usually the Cowboys make signings and make moves, but this year they did the opposite. So maybe that works for them. It's really up in the air on the NFC side. So we'll see what happens. Y'all have any final thoughts about the season ahead?
I'm happy to watch the ushering of the young quarterbacks. Jordan Love, Jaden Daniels, CJ Stroud. I mean, I think every 10 to 12 years you get an influx of like 5 to 7 guys to usher the next generation. And those guys that I named, Caleb Williams, I'm excited to see how they look moving forward and how they transform their teams and they transform their team's expectations moving forward. Think about this. The Bears have been around for almost 100 years. They've never had a 4,000-yard passer in their history of their franchise. It could happen this year. like think about that. That's crazy. Like the Bears have had. They've had great teams. Like, well, I know back in the 40s and 50s they want pass happy offenses, but I mean the last 30 years not having one 4,000-yard passer. That's crazy. The Lions are not a livestock anymore. They're actually they're a Super Bowl contender. For the most of my childhood and my adulthood, Lions were a joke. And for them to be contenders is, the Texans just 2 years ago, they were, nasty man getting massages and shit. And they were, left for dead. And now they're AFC Super Bowl contender now. Like, so I want to see these young quarterbacks and how they transform their teams. And I'm just a nerd for like QB developing. I'm a nerd for it. And I can't wait to see how these young guys transform their franchises moving forward.
For me, just quickly, like I'm interested in seeing like this trend that I don't think a lot of people are talking about, but like defenses are catching up with the offense. Offense is down. Offense is down in college.
Yeah,
like we just saw USC and LSU. Like essentially, that shit looks like a AFC North game. This past weekend. So I'm interested in seeing if that trend continues. And I think that's where we're going to start to see like how really good these quarterbacks are. Because again, defenses, like they have more answers for like these tests. So we're not going to see a lot of these empty calorie like stats. Like, that year where everybody was putting up 4,000, 5,000 yards. So I think those days are over. Like, I think that's going to be reserved for like the elite of the elite quarterback. So when Caleb Williams puts up a good 4,500 yards, like that's a real 4,500 yards. So interested in seeing if that continues.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. And I'm really just looking forward to this week. There's a lot of good games. Of course, the Chiefs and Ravens kick it off on Thursday night. Then you have the first Friday game. You have a game in Brazil between the Eagles and Packers. Kind of a strange location for a season opener for two of the more popular teams, certainly in the NFC, the two of the contenders. So it'll be a fun week. We'll be talking about all that stuff next week when we do our week one review. Also, Tom Brady makes his broadcasting debut in the Cowboys-Browns game on Sunday at 3:30 on Fox. So I'm sure we'll have a lot to say about that because I'm sure the internet will have a ton to say about his debut. So we appreciate everybody for joining us for the season premiere or for our season debut of this show. And thanks to everybody in the chat for joining us. We had King B. Johnson, we had Tracy, we had M Moves, and we had Geeking Out with Melly Mel. So thanks to everybody who joined us. We really appreciate all the comments and sticking in there with us. We hope you join us every week. We're hoping to do this every Tuesday, like I said, to wrap up the week that was in the NFL. So do that. And we're also on social media, so you can follow us there. We're at Watchers Basement. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. And we're also, you can use the hashtag Watchers Basement. That'll help us find out what you're saying. And we're also on audio platforms. So we love if you join us on YouTube and subscribe and like and all that good stuff. But if audio is your thing, we understand that. And our podcast is also available on platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So if you're on there, give us a 5-star rating. We really appreciate that. So as we get out of here, for Tristan and for Frank, I'm Justin saying thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will see you next time. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Go Chiefs.